In order for America to be the most important country in the world, we have to be the leader in technology supremacy.
I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjekovic, and we are unapologetically outspoken.
Hey everyone, happy Friday. Before we get started, I just want to forewarn everyone if there are pauses throughout the podcast episode, it's because my son is sick for like the 800th time this year. He just started preschool this year. He just threw up everywhere right before this, and now he won't leave my side. So he's literally laying right next to me and promises to be quiet, but we'll see how it goes. But I am telling you, Tara, I am on the verge of pulling them out of school and doing homeschool. And I've been looking into it, and it's like every indication, according to everything we've talked about on the podcast as well, is to get them out, do homeschool. And I feel like this is a sign because I'm sick and tired of him bringing every germ home.
But you're in a good, Florida school system, right? Like you're in one of the better schools.
We are, however, it's so overcrowded here because so many people are continuing to move
That's
that
true.
all the schools are overcrowded. So my oldest, who's in high school, sends me a picture and she's like, I'm in the bathroom right now, takes a picture of the bathroom and it says, the only good Trump supporter is a dead one. And I'm
Oh,
just like, okay, there's signs like every day that I need to pull them the hell out of school. I'm just so fed up with it. And I feel like no matter where you are, no matter what city or state, if it's public schooling, it's all part of the Department of Education. Until they get in there and break that up, it's just not good. So I'm a little pissed right now.
yeah, especially with messages like that in the bathroom. And I don't have kids, so I can't relate to what you're saying, except for when I was a cop and I did have to deal with the school systems. I was like appalled on a daily basis by the shit that goes on in schools.
Well, yeah. And I've been looking into homeschool, and the number one response I get from like friends and people I know is like, oh, well, you don't want them to be one of those like socially awkward homeschoolers. They need socialization. And I'm like, you know what? No, because that's the socialization they're getting. None of it is good. It's like they pick up attitude, they pick up things that they wouldn't if they were in an environment where like you can control kind of a little more who you put them around rather than putting them in a school with 2,000 kids that
Right.
are, you know what I mean? So I'm just
I
kind of at my breaking point.
I know a lot of people who were homeschooling their kids obviously during COVID,
Hmm.
and almost everyone, all of my friends that have kids that did temporarily homeschool said it was the best thing that they ever
Yeah.
did. Several of them kept their kids out of school afterwards and continue to homeschool them. If I had children, I would more than likely look into homeschooling. So I think
Yeah.
it's a good.
I think that's where I'm headed. So I'll keep everyone posted. I'm glad I live in Florida though, because they are very accommodating for homeschool parents. And I hope Trump follows through with his plan because he had a whole plan to help with education costs for homeschool parents. So rather than, you pay your taxes and all the money goes to the school, it's more like, homeschool parents can use that money for curriculums and, sports and things like that. So I hope he follows through with that.
That would be awesome. And I think the difficulty is when like you don't need and do you need certification to homeschool?
Not here, not in Florida.
Okay. Okay, you just have to follow the curriculum.
You don't even have to do that. Like you
Oh,
can. So they give you like options. You can follow the curriculum of the state. And if you do that, you like your kid has to go, I think it's like once a quarter to do testing. Or
okay.
you can opt out of that and do whatever curriculum you want. And then I think you just send you keep a log of everything and like send it in once or twice a year. But that's it. I know some states are a lot stricter. So Here, yeah, I could homeschool them, but you don't like there's so many options now because they have a ton of curriculums. They have cohorts where you go and meet up with other parents and kind of take turns with different subjects. So I don't know, but either way, I feel like it's better than what they're getting in public school. And
Yeah.
here where I live, private school is out of the question. It's more expensive. It's probably the same as going to like a private university. It's very expensive.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like when I was in elementary school, I was going to public school and I was like bullied by children in the bathroom that they were busing in from the inner city. This was like back in the 70s, late 70s,
Probably
early.
Kamala. Wasn't she one of the
Yeah.
kids on the yellow school bus?
Yeah, possibly. But I was a small kid and kind of quiet and shy at that time. And at one point, like I got locked in the bathroom and they stole my sweater. And my mom was like, fuck
Oh,
this, and pulled me out of public school. There was no homeschooling option, I don't think at that time. Plus, she worked full time and she couldn't do it. But she put me in private school. And I stayed in private school up until um high school when I begged to go to public school. Whole other long story. But I feel very fortunate that I was able to go to private school and it was expensive as fuck. And
hmm
I'm very lucky that at that time it was way more affordable than it is now, but it was still
Yes.
incredibly expensive. So I think for parents who don't have that option with private school, homeschooling is a good choice if you can do it.
If you can do it, that's the thing, because how many people can? It's like everyone
Right.
has to work to afford anything. Hopefully that'll
Mhm.
change. JD, I think it was JD Vance was talking about it. I'm pretty sure it was him where he was like, you know, it used to be taken for granted that one parent worked and the other parent could stay home. That's gone. Like that dream is gone and hopefully they can bring that back. But we do have charter schools here, so I have them on a list for that because that's a small school. So
Mhm.
that'll be my like determining point, I think. If they get into that, great. If they don't, then probably homeschool. So didn't mean to derail us, but I just had to
Oh.
vent because I'm like, we have been so sick this year, and I'm so tired of being sick. I don't want to do it anymore.
And I get that because, we all know I've been sick for weeks. I'm finally feeling a lot better. But between my husband getting sick and I getting sick, me getting sick, and then talking to you, and like for months now, you, your kids, your husband, you've all been just rotating through sickness. And it seems like everyone else is too. So
Yeah.
I, yeah.
Maybe we need an mRNA vaccine.
Oh, great
You
tie-in,
love that
Stephanie.
transition?
Yes. Yes, because that's exactly what we're talking about today. And if you guys remember on Wednesday, we talked about Trump's announcement about investing $500 billion in AI infrastructure. And one of the things is going to be this new program called Stargate that involves OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle. And we mentioned briefly, like one of the major goals of this program is going to be using AI to cure disease. And I think I expressed like a little bit of reservation about this on Wednesday. And then Stephanie, you sent me this TikTok clip yesterday that has now got me even more disturbed than I was by the idea before.
I know. Well, and it's funny because on Wednesday, I was still so like just giddy over like Trump getting in and everything. I refused to look at anything like with my conspiracy lens, but then I gave it a day and I'm like, yeah, this doesn't sit right with me, especially the name Stargate. I'm like, why would they pick that name? Because I think I said on Wednesday that was supposedly a program where there were like portals and stuff like that, or they were trying to create portals, and now they're using it with AI, and people think AI could be a portal. So it's just weird that they would like choose that name. So that was like my first red flag. But the thing is, they're selling it in a way that sounds really good because they're saying that you can diagnose and cure cancer in as little as 48 hours, which, like, who wouldn't want that, right? Well, I'm going to play a clip of Larry Ellison. He's the head of Oracle, which is one of the companies involved in this project, and just have him kind of explain the way that they're selling it to the public.
One of the most exciting things we're working on, again, using the tools that Sam and Masa are providing, is a cancer vaccine. It's very interesting. It turns out, I'll be quick, all of our cancers, cancer tumors, little fragments of those tumors float around in your blood. So you can do early cancer detection. If you can do using AI, you can do early cancer detection with a blood test. And using AI to look at the blood test, you can find the cancers that are actually seriously threatening the person. So we can, again, cancer diagnosis using AI has the promise of just being a simple blood test. Then beyond that, once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again, using AI in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
Okay,
Hmm.
so as soon as I heard mRNA, I sent that to you. I was like, hell no. Are you kidding me? It's like after everything that happened with COVID and the mRNA vaccine, I don't trust it one bit. And I would say the majority of Americans, even people that had the vaccine, are at that point where it's like, oh, yeah, maybe that wasn't a good idea. Um, but as I was scrolling TikTok last night, I come across this woman, and she's been very publicly outspoken about being against the vaccine mandates, the mRNA vaccine. I think she's even against a lot of the childhood vaccines. She was heavily censored, over the past few years because of that. But she shared a different perspective on this because her mother had been diagnosed with cancer. And I guess she decided to try this experimental vaccine that wasn't available in the US. So she traveled overseas to get it. And according to this woman, it worked. And her mother's alive and in remission. And I have no way of knowing, if this story is true. But it got me thinking from that perspective. Like, if I or someone I love was diagnosed with cancer and you're facing death and you have an option, take this vaccine and potentially be cured in 48 hours, or go through the agony of chemo and radiation for months with no promise of a cure. Honestly, in that situation, I'd choose the vaccine. I would take the risk because you're in a scenario where, in my opinion, the benefit outweighs the risk. And so that's probably the decision I would make if I were in this situation where I'm facing, terminal cancer. With that being said, though, I still don't trust it. And I sure as hell do not trust Larry Ellison. So go ahead. Were you going to say something?
I was going to say, I cannot wrap my mind around the idea of a vaccine that cures cancer within 48 hours.
Right. I know. It's,
Like
and
that's,
how do they know this? Like, have they been testing it behind the scenes? Are they just assuming? Um, it's very, it's a very big promise. And he's saying that that's the promise
yeah.
of AI. And it's like, but how do you know that? So it's a
Well, let's,
good selling point.
yes. And let's take a look at what they're already doing. And I'm going to assume you probably did not have time to listen to Tucker's podcast yet this morning.
No.
Okay. Well, very interestingly, we had already decided on this topic before the episode came out, but he had this guy named Chamath, and I know I said that right because I listened to the guy say his own name, but not the last name. Pali Hapitia,
Ooh,
I
that
think.
that was a good pronunciation.
Pali Hapitia. He was the guest on the podcast. I've never heard of him before, but I guess he's like a big player in the world of AI and Silicon Valley tech. And I want to play this clip from the show because it kind of relates to what you were just saying about the cancer vaccine. And it's not about a vaccine, but he's talking about how one of the companies that he's heavily invested in as like the largest shareholder is coming up with incredible advancements in how they're able to immediately detect breast cancer using AI.
And today, across America, for every 10 women that go and get diagnosed with breast cancer, 3 of the surgeries leave cancer behind.
Ouch.
So, and the way that it works is you go in for what's called, so there's 2 different kinds of breast cancer surgery. There's a lumpectomy, which is take out the lump, or a mastectomy, which is take out the entire breast. And in the lumpectomy, you visualize with your own eyes, whether you think most of the cancer is gone, you close up the woman and you take that sample, you give it to a pathologist, and typically between 7 and 11 days, which is how long it takes because they're clogged up and there's backlog, they'll look under a microscope and visually inspect and say, actually, sorry, 30% of the time they say you left some cancer behind. So now those 3 women have to go back. They get another surgery. But again, 30% error rate. They do it again. And then one of those women gets dinged. So now one woman has had 3 breast cancer surgeries.
Oh.
That is happening today. Now, if you go to a really, really good teaching hospital, that error rate will be 5% because the docs are incredible. If you go to an overly zealous doctor, that error rate will also be low, but you'll come in for a lumpectomy, you'll end up with a mastectomy kind of a thing. They'll just take out so much of that, and that creates a disfiguration. So this company basically says, hold on a second, I'll just use AI. I'll look right down to the granular microscopic level. I'll take an extremely high-res picture. My brain will be trained on only this one task. Is there cancer or is there no cancer? So we built it, and it's in a bunch of the leading hospitals in America. But we had to file with the FDA to be allowed to tell the doctor. Right? So I just want to be clear, we know, we can see it. And so we ran a 18-month trial, it cost us 10 or 15 million bucks. And we met our endpoint in November. We can now absolutely be sure that the cancer was removed or not removed. Now we have to package all of that up. We've filed it with the FDA. We've been told we'll get approval by June, and then we'll be able to sell, meaning sell this software upgrade. So that essentially in the operating room, instead of having to wait for the pathologist 7 to 11 days later, the doctor will do the lumpectomy, put it in the machine, and instantly you'll say, Tucker, you need to take out a little bit more. The margins are not right. Tucker, perfect job. Close her up. That's using AI.
While the patient's sedated?
Yeah.
Wow.
That is using AI, and that can get breast cancer surgeries to be so prolifically good that the error rate goes to 0. The impact on the quality of life of those women, and then by extension, their families, their kids that have to deal with that stress as well, can go away. So that's a profound impact of AI that you're going to see in the next year.
So this is already happening.
It's already happening, but let me just throw this out there because my entire life, we've been looking for a cure to cancer. We've spent more money in this country on finding a cure than like anything else, and we're no closer to finding a cure. And I think that's on purpose. And I think these clinics, these doctors, and I'm not saying the doctors are bad, I'm just saying there is a lot of money in treating cancer. And I think there's purposely been, covering up any kind of treatment. So like with this AI thing, I think that sounds great. Are they actually going to use it, or are they going to say, no, we want them to come back for a second surgery or for all these things? And I hate to say that, but I think that's the world we're living in right now. So I do think like if AI can cure it, that's great. Like my best friend just went through it. She had a full double mastectomy, and then she thought she was done, and they were like, we got it all. And then they end up putting her through chemo anyways. And I was like, well, did it come back? And she's like, well, no, this is like preventative. Like, since when is chemo preventative? I think they do this shit to, to keep them coming back and make money. So I do think there's a place for it. When you get into shady ass people like Sam Altman and Larry Ellison that want to gene sequence your DNA, like that's where my gut is like, there's something not right here. And we need to
E-
just be cautious. Don't like
Exactly.
cautiously optimistic.
Hmm.
And so I want to like explain a little bit of why I'm so weird about Larry Ellison. Because honestly, I've heard of him. I did not know much about him until this all came out. But Business Insider wrote an article like a while back about how the CIA made Larry Ellison a billionaire. So I'm like, that's interesting because I don't trust the CIA, nor do I trust any government agency. But Ellison himself said this on stage at a keynote where he was a speaker saying how the Central Intelligence Agency was Oracle's first company because he's the head of Oracle. And, that alone makes me question like everything, right? And so this Business Insider article talks about how Ellison read an IBM paper back in the day on this new database programmer or programming language called SQL. And he basically took the research in this paper and created an actual database. And then the CIA hired him and his team to create a database code named Oracle. So this was like a secret code name for what they're doing at the CIA. And like you fast forward to today, and Oracle has a market cap of $482 billion. So I like started looking into this. I come across this TikTok creator. His name's James Lee. This guy was phenomenal. He dug up so many old articles and he found one in the New York Times written by Larry Ellison years ago where he wrote, quote, "The single greatest step we Americans could take to make life tougher for terrorists would be to ensure that all the information in the myriad government databases was copied into a single comprehensive national security database." And that is what he did. He has a database that has the goods, not just on terrorists, on all of us. Okay. When you hear about like, what do they call it? The NSA? He basically set up the foundation of that. And there's a lot of conspiracies around that whole side of things. So, anyhow, Elon Musk is not on board with it, right? Like he's been very outspoken. Um, Hold on one sec. Okay, sorry. I had to fix my notes. I have some notes I want to talk about with Larry Ellison, and Google Doc likes to mess with me. So anyhow, I found what I wanted to say. All right. So when I heard about this whole database that they collected in the name of like terrorism, right? It made me think of all the times we've talked about this where after 9/11, so many of our freedoms were just kind of given away. And everyone was on board with it at the time because it was in the name of terrorism, right? So you had like the Patriot Act and like all of that had happened. And so just keeping that in the back of your mind, I want to play a clip that this guy, James Lee, had found of Larry Ellison discussing how this database will be used to create a mass surveillance state. Listen to this.
Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on. But those kind of applications using AI, if we can use AI, and we're using AI to monitor the video, citizens will be on their best behavior
Oh.
because we're constantly recording.
Okay, so that was a lot shorter than I realized. So he's basically saying like, yeah, you're like in China, you're going to be on your best behavior because we're watching every move you make. And how are we doing that? Well, with AI. AI is in the system, this database monitoring everything. So like we joke about that all the time, Tara, but like with this
Yeah.
podcast, I'm like, we're probably on a list somewhere. Like we probably are because if you put in certain code words in this AI, it can probably pull up like every single podcast where we've talked about things like this.
If that wasn't the case, why would we constantly be getting red flagged on fucking TikTok for talking about weather manipulation?
Yes, right, exactly. So, anyhow, there's that whole backstory to Larry Ellison. And like, what does all of this have to do with curing cancer? I think curing cancer is like the selling point. It's the guise for everyone to just be like, okay, and like give over complete control. And it's like, we know they already have this database on everyone, but this would take it a big step further because this would collect biological and genetic data on everyone and put
Yeah.
it in this database. And it freaks me out because, like, remember that episode we did where there was that tech company that was taking like a single human cell and then making lab grown brains that were being used to power technology?
Do you think I could forget that episode? That was
Yeah,
fucking frightening.
right. And like they can literally clone things. So it's like, I don't feel comfortable with someone like this or our government having all this stuff. And, what happens if 4 years from now, someone else takes over the government and now they've got like everyone's biological data? So that just, to me, it's like there is a lot of red flags that we need to look at. And, I think the other thing with them pushing this as a vaccine is very purposeful because if it's labeled a vaccine, it would provide them liability because vaccine manufacturers can't be sued. There's that whole thing that was written into law. So that's interesting. And then I found there's a slew of articles, and you could just do a quick Google search that show that this Ellison guy is all about transhumanism. And he has made like statements before saying like accepting mortality is incomprehensible. Like he's all about living forever and the whole transhumanism thing. So I'm sure that he is interested in curing cancer and doing things like this that are going to help people's health. But this guy can't be trusted. We already know Sam Altman can't be trusted. And they are two of the people leading this whole program.
I wonder if he's part of the World Economic Forum.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I was trying to quickly look that up while you're talking. Ooh, I really wonder if he is. Oh, he is. He's got to be. He's got to be. I don't know. I'll look into it in a little
I mean,
bit.
probably he's like one of the biggest elites, in the world.
Right. Exactly. Because once you brought up the whole transhumanism thing, like
Hmm.
I just don't have good vibes about him. And then I don't know if you saw this, but Trump suggested him as another potential buyer for TikTok.
Yes, I did see that he has been like in line as one of the people that would love to buy TikTok. And he also owns Paramount. And I didn't realize that Paramount isn't just movies. It's like TV networks
Mm.
and CBS News, all the CBS News channels. So he has a big control in the media narrative and massive control over the country's database. And we're going to trust him with our biological data. I don't think so.
Yeah, definitely red flags. And okay, I got to bring this up too because there's this dynamic playing out and it's only been a couple days. And so I'm sure you've seen this. I want to get your opinion on it. So initially, I thought, and I think I even said this on Wednesday, I thought that Trump had made the announcement that Elon was involved in this project. But everything I've seen over the past couple days is basically Elon talking shit about the whole Stargate project. And he's still involved in this ongoing lawsuit with OpenAI and Sam Altman because what he and Altman originally started OpenAI and then Elon left and he's outright said he doesn't trust Altman and it seems like he's totally not on board with this Stargate plan because after Trump made the announcement, he went on X and he posted that, they don't have the money. And he said SoftBank has well under 10 billion secured. I have that on good authority. So Altman responds And first he like praises Elon, and then he says, quote, wrong as you surely know. Want to come visit the first site already underway? This is great for the country. I realize what is great for the country isn't always what's optimal for your countries or your companies, but in your new role, I hope you'll mostly put America first, end quote. So
Damn.
yeah, exactly. So again, it hasn't even been 2 days and it's like shots fired already, right? And then the new press secretary, Caroline Levitt, she goes on Fox News. And this was yesterday. So she was asked what Trump thought about Elon's response. So I want to play the clip of what she had to say to Fox News.
Ask you about this because we heard this massive announcement of Stargate with Larry Ellison and Sam Altman and Hassan, the head of SoftBank, $500 billion investment, which I think people welcome. Everyone wants, I believe, us to be on the cutting edge of AI. But then Elon Musk came out and said SoftBank doesn't actually have the money. SoftBank has well under $10 billion secured. I have that on good authority. What's the president's reaction to that from Elon Musk?
Well, President Trump is very excited about this infrastructure announcement in the field of AI, which is obviously growing and something the United States of America needs to capitalize on because our adversaries, such as China, are very advanced in this field. And so that was a big announcement for our country, for our industries here at home, and also for the American people, because this is going to create a minimum of 100,000 jobs here in the United States of America. So the American people should take President Trump and those CEOs' words for it. These investments are coming to our great country, and American jobs are coming along with them.
All right. Well, it'll be interesting to watch all of that play out. And Sam Altman, I should point out, went back at Elon Musk and said they absolutely do have the money for this venture. And they have their own bit of back and forth on social media that's been going on for quite some time. I want to ask you about this, Caroline. Just crossed the.
Okay, I guess that was it.
Okay, so I can like this is why I like hearing different perspectives, because I think she's absolutely right, and I think that's the way that Trump is looking at this, which is that it's either going to be us or it's going to be China. Like China's working on this too, and do we really want to fall behind when it comes to something like this, you know?
Yes. And that's what I want to bring up right now.
Ooh, okay.
Because, okay, this was another thing that got me thinking after listening to Tucker's interview this morning, because this whole thing with AI makes me very uneasy, right? I've made that clear for years.
We've done a lot of terrifying AI episodes.
Yeah. But at the same time, I'm starting to understand Trump's desire to have the United States be the leader in AI tech. And what she just said there, like that concept was totally reinforced for me this morning, because Chamath was explaining that in order for America to be the most important country in the world, we have to be the leader in technology supremacy. Like this is a non-negotiable key to being a world leader. So I want to play another clip from the interview. And God, I really need reading glasses. I can't even see my phone. Hold on.
Is in the early 2000s, there's an incredible professor, Jennifer Doudna in Berkeley, and she pioneers CRISPR, which is the ability to edit genes. Let's take that off the table, whether you think it's morally right or wrong for a second, okay? It could be a tool, it could be a weapon. I grant that. But it is undeniably a tool that sits in the toolbox that we call technological supremacy. Over the next decade, what Silicon Valley managed to do was embroil themselves in IP lawsuits about who actually owned it. What China did was take the open source awareness of it and pioneer it. Was that smart? Whether you agree or you disagree, should that toolbox be in our toolbox where we can mete it out? Or should it be in China's toolbox where they can decide? Where if all of a sudden there's some disease in the future and it requires this very precise form of gene editing and only they can do it, and now a state-sponsored entity in China is the one that provisions a cure for 8 billion humans around the world, that will give them tremendous economic power. Is that smart? for America to have done that? I think not.
Okay.
It's true though. It's a really good
Yes.
point. And I just want to like throw something out there real quick because this helped me kind of understand where we're going because I always compare AI to the internet, you know? Like what if we did this with the internet? We're like, well, we don't want our data out there everywhere and we didn't get on board with the internet, like we'd be a third world country, which I'm kind of thinking America is a third world country at this point, especially after seeing Red Note and how it is in China. But I heard this guy the other day on a podcast and he was like, no, it's more like electricity. Think about the world before electricity was invented and how it changed every facet of life for the better. And it's improved like everything you could possibly think of. Imagine all the things we use electricity for every single day. He's like, that is what AI is going to do. It is going to completely change every facet of our life to the point that we can't even fathom it at this point. And are there some downsides? Yes, but the things that'll improve are so much better. So that kind of helped me look at it in a different light a little bit.
Yeah, and one of the other things he talked about, like he gave a lot of examples, and I think that's part of what really like helped shift my perspective a little bit because he brought up like Saudi Arabia, for example. They're clearly selling oil, right? And they're using the capital that they have to start building a global like data infrastructure for AI. And because Saudi Arabia is located very strategically between Asia, Europe, and Africa, this is a smart move on their part. But they currently don't have the AI chips, right? So at some point, they're going to have to purchase these chips, and where are they going to come from? He was saying like, we think we have this amazing AI capabilities with Meta's Llama and OpenAI's Chat GPT. But just last month, a company in China open sourced a new AI model where they spent tens of billions of dollars to create AI that's smarter than both Llama and ChatGPT on multiple dimensions, and they're doing it a lot cheaper. So he was saying when other countries like Saudi Arabia want to make their own AI advancements, who are they going to look to? Are they going to go to the US with AI chips that are going to cost billions of dollars and come with a ton of export regulations? Or are they going to look to China where the chips are only going to be millions instead of billions and they're going to come with less regulatory issues?
Okay, that makes sense, but I think I already know the answer. This is like so mind-blowing, okay? How much is Trump spending on this AI infrastructure that so Saudi Arabia just did their whole AI infrastructure. Trump
Mhm.
is saying $500 billion it's going to cost us.
Yeah,
Saudi Arabia just said they're giving the US $600 billion. So
they did.
maybe that's the trade-off. Yes.
Oh, shit.
Well,
I didn't even know that.
That's what the Saudi prince said. I don't think it's said
Oh, that's right.
he said that. So maybe that's the deal. Like we will give you the money for
Oh,
your AI infrastructure, you give us your chips, and we all work together. Holy shit, we just
oh.
solved the world's problems. Well, actually Trump did. We're just catching on, but
Oh my God. I didn't even remember that until you just said that. And now I remember reading that, but I didn't read the article. I just read
how
a
genius of a negotiator does he have to be to make a deal like that if that's true?
if that's the case. Very interesting. Okay, because this guy was saying like our AI needs to be cheaper and better, and that we need to have like less regulatory hoops to jump through because we obsessed over copyright laws in the United States. China doesn't give a fuck about copyright laws. And that's one of the reasons why they're so far ahead of the game. And if we want to be a global leader in the tech and AI world, we need to get our shit together, especially after the last 4 years, because we've been focused on nothing but nonsense that's basically dragged our country down and reduced our global capabilities as a superpower. And he brought up the example of like, okay, if you want to take a look at a nation that's lost the economic war, the tech war, the military capability war because of their focus on, the climate agenda and allowing unchecked immigration to flow into the country and prioritizing DEI and all that other nonsense that ended up reducing their standing as a world power. Just look at the UK.
Yes. Oh my gosh, this is so funny because I was just listening to Diary of a CEO podcast yesterday, they had someone from America and someone from the UK, and they were talking about like Trump taking over. And the guy in the UK was like, look, the UK, like, we are falling so far behind. We will never get ahead. And you want to know why? Because of energy, because we have all these green policies in place. And do you know how much energy it takes to power AI? Like, it
Yes.
is insane. And so we fell really far behind the last 4 years under Biden. And obviously, Trump, like, that's why one of the big reasons why he's pushing energy and drilling.
And that's what I came to this morning because when I listened to this interview, I started looking at the bigger picture. So now I can put together the pieces of why Trump is wanting to invest so much in AI technology, which again, I think it's a risky investment, but it has potential and it's going to require a shit ton of energy resources. So obviously that comes into play with Trump's focus on drilling and making us more independent with oil and gas resources. And maybe like right now, we don't have the capacity to power the energy grid required for these kind of projects. Um, but I'm starting to see how the policies come together, right? So this project is already underway. It's being built in Abilene, Texas, the Stargate project. And according to Ellison, the data centers have been under construction for a while. Each building is going to be 500,000 square feet. There are 10 buildings that are currently being constructed, and that's going to expand to 20. And then there's going to be other locations beyond Abilene because that's just the first location. So he talked about how once these data centers are ready, um, that's when they'll be turned over to Altman to start training the AI models. And that these new data centers are going to be the largest ever computers built. And they're going to be the next step towards AGI, right? This is the shit that terrifies me because this is the AI we talk about that has the human understanding and consciousness and can start thinking independently and manipulate its own data. And that shit scares me. So now there's this giant data center that's not only like creating really disturbing shit, but it's going to require massive amounts of energy. I did not take notes on this, but I read an article yesterday. I think it was saying like the amount that it's going to take for one of these data centers is the amount of energy that could power 750,000 homes. So
Hmm.
that's a shit ton of
Easily.
fucking energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the scheme of things, this is a huge undertaking. And again, it comes down to whether this will be used for the benefit of humanity or as a means of control, which is the part where I'm on the fence. But at least now I see the big picture of everything that Trump's trying to put in place.
You know, you mentioned AGI. My jaw hit the floor when Sam Altman and Larry Ellison were talking to reporters, and I don't know which one it was, but one of them said, "Yeah, that this will turn into AGI." Like they're admitting it, and I'm
Yeah.
like, isn't that the thing everyone's worried about? But here's the thing: these guys, if they don't get this funding from Trump, do you think they're going to be like, oh, well, we're just going to go home? No, they're going to go talk to
No.
the elites in Davos or
Mhm.
China to have it done. And so I think, you know, when you say, like, is this going to benefit humanity or be a means of control? I think this is the best option we have to work with because at least there could be some regulation involved and it's in the United States, in Texas, not, you know, a data center in China. And I think it's just what we have to do to compete, you know, in the world. And I would love to know what RFK thinks of all of this because he's so against the mRNA vaccines, but also a big complaint that he's had of Trump is that Trump surrounded himself in the last administration with bad people. And these
Right.
guys are not good people. So I haven't heard anything from him yet. But now that Elon's been so outspoken, I wonder if we'll hear anything from him. I'll have to update everyone on Monday.
Right. Is this a case of keep your enemies closer or or what? You
I
know?
think for Trump, honestly, I think it's like we just have to get ahead of China on the world
Yeah.
stage. You know, that's
Yeah.
probably the way he's looking at it.
Well, speaking of the world stage, I have been so caught up in Trump's inauguration. and like my excitement for the past few days and then this whole thing, then I didn't realize the World Economic Forum has been taking place in Davos this week. And Trump joined yesterday, like via video conference. And did you watch any of it?
No, I didn't even realize it was going on. I kind of was just hoping that WEF went away and was done, but guess not.
Oh, well, it's still there. But I will say, like, it was very much like his inauguration speech. He did not fucking hold back or mince words with these elites. And his speech was basically like a summary of everything he said during the inauguration. And he was all about the America First agenda. He made it very clear he was not going to play ball with the global elites and their climate policies and their global decarbonization plans. And one of the things he talked about was terminating what he called the ridiculous and incredibly wasteful Green New scam and how he's going to double down on oil and gas. So he brought up Stargate and he basically said that he envisions the United States is going to be the world capital of artificial intelligence. And his goal is to fast track AI and tech infrastructure. So, I mean, stand by, like this is happening.
You know, I think this is what I was hearing because I kept hearing clips of these elites that used to like talk so much shit about Trump that were agreeing with him and they were getting on board. So I think it must have been from the summit. But it's just so funny because it's like they're all just all of a sudden they're big Trump fans.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they know it's like he doesn't have to win another term and y'all tried killing him. So I think they know they better like get on board or else. It's just
Yeah.
interesting to see that happen. And I'm very curious with Elon speaking up about this whole AI thing, if he'll get the boot, kind of like Vivek did. Okay.
Right.
So I've got the gossip on that. Thanks to TikTok. So allegedly, the whole falling out is from something that Vivek posted on X back on like December 26th, where, he was very outspoken about being for the H-1B visas. And I'm going to read the post because supposedly this is the post that like Trump was like, get out, because he kind of says a lot of shit about Americans and our culture. So he posts the reason top tech companies often hire first foreign born and first generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. The key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Tough questions demand tough answers, and if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, at least since the 90s and likely younger. That doesn't start in college, it starts young. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World, or Zach and Slater over Screech and Saved by the Bell, or Stefan over Steve Urkel and Family Matters will not produce the best engineers. Fact, I know multiple sets of immigrant parents in the 90s who actively limited how much their kids could watch those TV shows precisely because they promoted mediocrity, and their kids went on to become wildly successful STEM graduates. More movies like Whiplash, fewer reruns of Friends, more math tutoring, fewer sleepovers, more weekend science competitions, fewer Saturday morning cartoons, more books, less TV, more creating, less chillin', more extracurriculars, less hanging out at the mall. Most normal American parents look skeptically at those kinds of parents. More normal American kids view those kinds of kids with scorn. If you grew up aspiring to normalcy, normalcy is what you will achieve. Now close your eyes and visualize which families you knew in the 90s who raised their kids according to one model versus the other. Be brutally honest. Normalcy doesn't cut it in hyper-competitive global market for technical talent. And if we pretend it does, we'll have our asses handed to us by China. This can be our Sputnik movement. We've awakened from a slumber before and we could do it again. Trump's election hopefully marks the beginning of a new golden era in America, but only if our culture fully wakes up. A culture that once again prioritizes achievement over normalcy, excellence over mediocrity, nerdiness over conformity, hard work over laziness. That's the work we have cut out for us rather than wallowing in victimhood and just wishing or legislating alternative hiring practices into existence. I'm confident we can do it. Okay, so what are your thoughts on this?
I have to say, I agree with him 100%.
Okay, I did too. Well, first of all, I was kind of laughing because I'm like, I feel like this poor kid was probably bullied. He was like the math nerd,
Mhm.
and he didn't like the or the Slater, and Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
He was the Screech, and all of that. But when you look at the comments, like big people that like know Trump and like huge names, they all went off on him, like saying, do we really need to start listing American inventors, and what the world wouldn't have without us? And you're calling Americans culturally mediocre because they don't want to be underpaid by big tech firms. And like people just went off saying like you are bashing American culture.
I don't agree because I don't think American culture was built on the idea of mediocrity, but that's what it's fucking become. I
Yes.
mean,
No, I agree.
this is 100% who we are, celebrating mediocrity and everyone being equal. And it started with the whole everyone gets a trophy bullshit, right? We
Hmm.
took away the whole like strive for competitiveness in children, and that filters up through adulthood. And like while you were reading, I was thinking of when I was in junior high. I fucking clearly remember this. I had a friend named Lisa Jan, and she was I don't remember which Asian nationality, but she was Asian, and her family was very strict about her grades. And I remember one day she came to school and she had this like really cool red watch that I liked. And one
Hmm.
day she came to school and she didn't have her watch. And I was like, oh, where's your watch? And her parents took it away because she got an A minus. Like
Yeah.
their standards were fucking high,
Yep.
right? And most kids, their parents don't even care if they come home with a C. So I do think there is a lot to be said for other cultures that have a standard of excellence, which should be the standard in America, and we should not be celebrating mediocrity.
Yeah, I agree. I think, there's that stereotype that like Asians are so much better at math and, Indians are good like engineers and doctors, but it's the culture. It's they're
Right.
raised to focus on school and to learn and not to be the popular kid in school.
Well, like you've mentioned this before, the Chinese TikTok or whatever. They don't actually have
Hmm.
TikTok, but theirs is focused on, mathematics and learning and engineering, while ours is focused on, what do kids watch on TikTok? Nonsense.
You look at what they're doing in kindergarten over there, and it's like most teenagers can't. Like
Right.
they're learning how to cook like entire meals in kindergarten. Like they're so
Well,
far ahead. They're learning math, complex.
I'm I'm even looking at I coach, whatever you want to call it, teach English to two young girls here. They're like 12 and 13.
Mhm.
They're taking classes at their age that I didn't even see until college. Like they're doing physics and chemistry in like elementary school. I didn't
Yeah.
fucking do that.
Mhm.
Do they do that in the States these days? I don't think so.
No, no, they sure don't. I was listening to a Chinese girl that they posted her thing on TikTok, but it was from Red Note. And she was like, everyone's so surprised when they see like what we're talking about. And she's like, but I don't think you understand. Like in China, the only way that your family is ever going to get ahead is through education. She's like,
Mhm.
our whole life depends on it. It's not like, oh, it'll be nice if you get straight A's. She's like, we have to, or our family will never like get up in the ranks of civilization. And so I think different cultures they do. They take it a lot more serious. I think we have fallen behind. I mean, look at the stats right now. There are a certain percentage, I forget, but it's a big percentage of high schoolers that can't even read and write.
Right.
That's a problem. So I didn't think there was anything wrong with that post, but man, the comments went for him. And what's interesting is I remember when he was outspoken about the H-1B visas, and Elon backed him, and so did Trump. They all said if someone is here and they are at the top of their class in engineering and they're going to help the country, yes, they should stay. They should get their visa. They all agreed on that. So I'm thinking maybe it's the backlash from MAGA that kind of muddied the waters.
But that's even in keeping with part of Trump's speech. And I'm pretty sure he said this at the inauguration. He did say it at the World Economic Forum speech, talking about foreign businesses investing in America and how, they're going to, whatever percentage, shit, I can't remember exactly what it was, but he was promoting the idea of foreign investment with foreign companies coming into America. So that seems kind of counterproductive to not being in support of,
What I'm
of what Vivek was
wondering
saying.
is I always got the sense that Trump didn't fully trust Vivek,
Mhm.
because of just like things that he said. And I just wonder maybe like he was already a little iffy. And then if there was all this backlash, which I didn't even realize, but I guess this was a big thing. People were pissed about it. Maybe that just pushed him over the edge or gave him the excuse to give him the boot. Like, I don't know. But that's what I found so many posts. It was even on one of the news stations where they were like, Vivek like went all out on TikTok or on X and was venting, and that got him kicked out. So I don't know, but that's what people are saying.
But that's where I think this is going to have the possibility of getting very interesting because, we were celebrating this idea of the dream team, right?
Yeah.
Bringing together people from, the Democratic Party, independents, and all uniting with Trump. But at the same time, now you have a group of people who don't share all the same views. So now we see Vivek has been pushed out because of, his differences with the H-1B visas and immigration. We've got Elon making waves with this Stargate project that is essentially competition for his own AI program.
Hmm.
And how is Trump going to react to that, right? And then you mentioned RFK Jr. and his feelings about the mRNA vaccines. And now he's heading up a big part of the government, which is going to be possibly competing in some sense with this Stargate project. So the question is like, are these differences going to end up causing the dream team concept to crumble?
I know. I'm really nervous about that with Elon because I'm like, is this going to be the same thing where he gets pushed out? And I sure
Mhm.
hope not. Like I hope that Trump realizes it was that dream team that like got so many people on board
Right.
to vote for him. So we'll see, but man, I mean, there's so much going on. And I have to say, something really positive to end on is Trump is going to Western North Carolina. And I haven't seen articles on this, but people that live there that post on TikTok were saying that like all these people that are living in tents and freezing temperatures, that he's getting them like fully furnished apartments. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they're saying. And he's supposed to visit there. I'm not sure which day it is, but it's like he has all this going on, but he's like going and making a trip out there. And I feel like he's doing a fantastic job so far.
Okay, I just looked this up to see if there's anything on it. And there was an article that came out in Reuters an hour ago saying that Trump will be traveling to Western North Carolina and Los Angeles today. It'll be his first trip since becoming president. Remember, I mentioned, I think on Monday or Wednesday, how he was going to go to Los Angeles. But yeah, he's gonna go. It says, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I'm not going to read the whole article. But yeah, he's going to both. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Well, they're
And there's still
excited.
massive fires. Yeah, there's still major fires going on in California.
That's crazy. That
Hey,
is like
there's a whole new
insane
one.
that that is
Yeah.
still going on. But yeah, people in Western North Carolina they seem excited because they're like, this happened in September. And Biden did nothing for all those months. And now Trump's been in office less than a week and
Yeah.
he's going out there and who knows what is going to come of it, but I'm sure something big he'll announce while he's there. So yeah,
Yes.
he's got a lot he's done. I mean, it's not even been a week and he's done more than Biden did in like all 4 years. So
I know. Oh,
all right,
okay.
well, we'll keep everyone posted. I mean, man, there's just going to be a lot to talk about, and we'll stay on top of it. I hope that everyone has a good weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday. Thanks for tuning in.